take a look at what happened here with Carone. Oh, you can see.
Brown and Jukic are rep for rep on the Toza bar. Brown is through 20. Jukic
Please welcome Will Morat to the platform.
Sixth and second cut.
I thought I saw this after the sprint.
Completed that pegboard.
Catherine Davidson on the left looked like she might be calling it a day and waiting for the second.
Yo, at the time of which I am recording this, it is 1:11 in the morning, and this is a laundromat. We'll see who decides to join us in the laundromat, because we gotta talk about Alexander Carone. Now, as many of you people know, one of my favorite things to do is to go through Reddit and look for people just looking to talk crap. Most of the things that people say are I'm the washed up semifinal regional athlete. But the thing about that is that I know a little bit more than you freaking think.
Is that what you think? You think?
For example, 2017, the year after I competed in the regionals, there was an athlete named, what the hell's the jean shorts guy? Ronnie Teasdale. And that dude, on the first event where there was a handful of snatches, I believe he just walked out there, did a snatch, and then completely stopped doing anything else.
The fellas looking to lift all the weights
As he gets 185 up and overhead.
pounds. Like Joshie said, they're going for 10 reps until they can advance to 225, 225, and finishing out at 265. Keep in mind, they have 2 minutes at each weight to complete the count required. Except at 265, they do get an additional minute.
As you see this weight move fast here in 9. Run for weight.
And at that point in time, every regional, year after year, when there were 2 left, they instilled a minimum work requirement. And I've got one right here. On event number 1 of the 2017 regional, they had a 1200 meter buy-in, and then they had 12 rounds of 4 strict handstand push-ups, 8 chest-to-bar pull-ups, and then 12 squats wearing a vest. Right there in the notes on that page for the workouts from the 2017 regional, you can see that there is a minimum work requirement for this event of 3 rounds for the triplet. So if you didn't get through 3 or more of the 12 rounds right there, then you were not able to carry on in that regional. There is a minimum work requirement on event number 2, the 21:15:9, of the dumbbell snatches and the ring dips with those heavy freaking dumbbell snatches. I mean, they were heavy back then, but they're way heavier now. Event number 3, you had to complete a rope climb. That rope climb was after 100 feet of the dumbbell overhead lunge, 100 double unders, 50 wall ball shots of the 30 for the men and the 20 for the women, and then you had the 10 ascents on the rope in which you had to complete 1, and you get the idea. Every single event, they told you how far you had to get, because then it completely gets rid of the gray area. Because year after year, you tend to learn a thing or two. And I guess that is unless you get rid of everybody and the people all around the current day are running around like chickens with their heads cut off. Andrew, why is that important? Well, I actually have something for you. Something that not many people are gonna have. I've spoken to Alexander Carone.
I can do those things.
I have a message from Alexander Carone telling you exactly what went on. Where is it? Here we go.
Okay, so on Monday I tore my left pec while practicing the event with the muscle ups and the rucksack.
I've stated multiple times, I know I've heard it from Rich Froning, and I've even heard it from a couple of other past Games champions, that the rucksack, and I said Games champions, but you know, top 5 of the CrossFit Games amongst Games champions, so that's 3 individuals, have spoken to me about the difficulties with the rucksack when it comes to turning over into the ring muscle ups. Alexander Carone right here sitting in this chair in Disney World, because when he got kicked out of the competition, he went to freaking Disney World because he tried to have a good time. So he's having a good time and he's sending me a video. And in this video, he states that in the Monday prior to heading out for this freaking semifinal in Orlando, Florida, he tore his pec. Doing what? The movement in which he's going to be talking about in a second.
So I asked CrossFit right away if there was going to be any minimum work requirement during the weekend. Their response was that it was going to be briefed at the event. I don't know why, because obviously weeks 2 and 3 are going to know about it, but that was the response. So I tried every other movement, and I was okay doing them. including the dumbbell bench and the legless rope climbs. So I decided to make the trip.
He asked CrossFit whether or not there would be minimum work requirements this weekend. And they told him to just come on out and then we'll let you know when you get here. Meaning that they had not at that point in time made up their minds yet, because as I just stated, they were on the website, and what I remember is when they released these workouts in 2017, there were minimum work requirements for everybody to see, and this is a big thing. Can you get there? And then maybe even if you remember to the 2020, was it the 2018 games, the 2019 games, whichever year Matt Fraser put the kettlebells down, he looks around, I think it was the Fibonacci final.
And that might be the first time I've ever seen him smile in the middle of an event.
You wanted to make sure that he got through the parallel handstand push-ups in particular, and you wanted to do that because he had a pretty huge lead. I think it was a couple hundred points, but if he hadn't made it through the parallel handstand push-ups, the entire thing was for naught. So he didn't want to kill himself. There was a certain minimum work requirement that had to be hit on that event. He knew what it was. He didn't want to injure himself because
The most dominant performance of all time.
God forbid you injure yourself and then you can't hit the minimum work requirement.
It doesn't matter.
How freaking big your lead was, you're out. And he knew it. And in 2017, anybody would have known it. And Alexander Caron is just asking for that sort of wherewithal from CrossFit, and they don't know at the point that was Monday in which he had torn his pec doing the movement that they prescribed for this semifinal.
And then during the athlete briefing, they told us there was no minimum work requirement. Basically, we just had to make an effort during the duration of the workout.
There was no minimum work requirement. They had to make an effort during the workout.
That's what I did. I played their game. I even did a couple of pulls on the muscle-ups. And then after the event, I saw the medical team, and the responsible just made me do a couple of tests to see if I was good to go. He gave me his approval, and then this morning on Saturday when I was warming up, they took me aside.
He went to medical, they sent him away, he went about his day like normal. He wasn't going to Disney World at this point, he was going home, he was going to bed, he was getting ready for the next day of competition because this was the end of day number 1 for the individual. Show up for day number 2 to go complete Linda and...
Littering and...
Littering and
About 20 minutes prior, and they told me I had to go see the head judge and the bossman, and they just told me that they were withdrawing me because of the injury. But it was not for a medical reason, so I asked them why. They told me my effort during the muscle-up event wasn't good enough for a semi-final athlete.
Get this, medical says that it's okay, right? So he went about his day, we already talked about that. Alex Caron shows up the next day, Bosman, and I think it was Chuck, the head judge, the other head judge. They told him that the effort wasn't good enough for a semi-final athlete.
Mother of God.
Now define effort. Let's look up the word effort. You know those display things, and it goes, effort is a choice. So what was his choice? Effort, a vigorous or determined attempt, a force exerted by a machine or a process. Somewhere in here it says something about a serious attempt. Now, Alex Caron, it's probably worth noting at this point that this dude has made the CrossFit Games not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but 5 separate times he's made it to the CrossFit Games. Probably also worth noting that he has withdrawn 2 of those 5 times, he was cut 2 of those 5 times, and then he finished 16th in 2020. He's well respected amongst his peers, and you'll pick that up in his comment section with a handful of athletes reaching out, one of those people being countryman Patrick Vellner, who actually in the 2016 regional had a pretty big story about a bicep tear, and he was able to make his way
downtown, walking fast,
navigate through the regional and finish in the 5th spot, kind of launching himself into the stardom that was Patrick Vellner to the time in which you know him present day. It was kind of his coming out party, 2016, 17, 18, 19, you are Patrick Vellner, oh yeah, but would that have even happened had they had medically or even said they weren't being able to make certain efforts? And I guess you weren't able to define what effort would have been, but you wouldn't have had to, because in 2016 you had people like Ronnie Teasdale who were just doing whatever they want in their jean shorts on the floor, and you can't just pull them off of the floor. Dave Castor at that point in time, home in 2016, he was enraged. He goes, he can't just do 1 rep, but he had the thought process that was, Well, I guess I also can't just take the dude out, because how are we gonna say that? We can't just take him out. And sure, he might not be doing what everybody else does, but at that point, the dude was a slack-flying, crazy body weight, flipping, flexible, living off of the land sort of dude, just sleeping with everybody from what you could tell. He hadn't touched a barbell in months. He rode in there on his unicycle. So he didn't want to do any more snatches. And you're telling me, doing one snatch at 185, is that cool? And it's not like Alexander Carone wasn't over here wanting to do a ring muscle up, wanting to do well at the event. He actually hurt himself doing and practicing the exact movement that they got to be doing in this event.
And that I had an unfair advantage for the rest of the competition, which I don't really understand, to be honest. But I asked them what they were gonna do with the other people that did no repetition during the workout, and they just told me, we're not gonna have this argument with you, but this is our final decision. So that's it.
He has an unfair advantage over the rest of the competition for the remainder of the weekend. Now you tell me, a score of 0, unfair advantage, and he brings up other athletes who had also not been able to complete the work. And you'll see that on the leaderboard. You'll see a handful of women in the North America East region, you'll see a handful of women over in the Africa region, and they'll have a whole bunch of zeros. And you look at that score and you think, does that mean that they also didn't do anything? At which rate, aren't they getting some sort of benefit as well? The score on that workout was the burpee box jump overs. In Africa, there was a handful of women who were unable to get to the burpee box jump overs. Every single round you had to buy in with the complex, which really wasn't a complex, because you do a toaster ring and then you take a break and then you do a muscle up and a ring dip. And in my head, really the complex would have been an unbroken total ring into a ring muscle up into a ring dip, but everyone was trying to game it, and that's besides the point. But I think it was really stupid that they were allowed to do that. However, there were women who were doing them, maybe not doing all 5 of them, maybe actually doing 5 of them, but then they got caught up on the pistols before they inevitably didn't get a box jump over, burpee box jump over. And because they didn't get any burpee box jump overs over those 3 rounds, although they were doing work, their score still will be a 0, such as Carone's was also a 0. But his 0 had this many of the ring muscle ups. He was doing pull-ups.
Keeping an eye on the clock and through. And now we have some men moving on to the single leg squat, so you have Carone having some problems here.
He was trying to pull himself up, but he couldn't turn over, and he knew he couldn't turn over because he hurt himself doing this movement, had tried it in practice, asked them before the competition if it was going to be something that was going to get him pulled out of the competition. They told him they would let him know when he got there, and then you start to think, this is a dude, paid his registration, this is a dude who paid for lodging, he's paying for food, and he's got all these sponsors, and this is kind of probably how he makes a living. He is a 5-time CrossFit Games athlete. People talk about professionalism, and you hear about like Michael Jordan playing sick as a dog in, what was it, the 1997 championships, and that's a giant comeback story. We hear about Patrick Miller in our sport. You know the story about Matt Frazier finishing the minimum work requirement in the 20 whatever CrossFit Games because he didn't want to have that pulled away from him. What was it, 2017, 2018? I don't know, I'll plug it in here, but it was the Fibonacci final. You think about, who is it, Tua Tagovailoa, whoever the quarterback is on the Dolphins, who had some sort of head injury, and they're letting him play on the field, and everyone's making memes about him everywhere. Like, he's gonna die on the field, he's not himself, how are they letting him play? Where's the NFL concussion protocol? But at the end of the day, it's up to the player, it's up to the team, because the team has the player as the asset. CrossFit is and should be the NFL. They should have a protocol involved. And their protocol said that, well, you're healthy enough to do whatever the hell you want to do with your body. They cleared him, right? CrossFit's got this statement coming out from Justin Berg. And holy hell, is this thing a bunch of garbage. My heart goes out to both Alex and Corby. There's nothing we enjoy about having to make these decisions, and there's no way in good conscience that we can let any athlete with an injury move on and compete in a benchmark workout like Linda. Like Linda's going off to war. We're never gonna send that dude over into Iraq. You don't know what's gonna happen over in Afghanistan. No. They're gonna go do a workout where they're gonna do some bench presses, some deadlifts, and some cleans. They're gonna have to hit hip extension on those cleans, right? They then go on post a handful of rules where they say they can basically do whatever they want to do, whenever they want to do it, based on whatever they've written anywhere. But I just mentioned in 2016, the same rules were in place, and they decided not to act on those rules because the rules are freaking stupid, and back then people actually knew what they were doing. But it follows it up with something saying to prevent further injury and establish a fair competition where all athletes are performing performing the same test under the same conditions and experiencing the same accumulated effect. Athletes who are injured and cannot perform one test may not be allowed to advance in the competition. And this is actually rather interesting because you think about what's going on here, and he has a pec tear. And in the next event, you have a handful of dumbbell bench press. And then in the next event, I think that Jason Hopper arguably did one of the most incredible things ever, and in about a 2-minute and 25-second window was able to work up to a 305-pound snatch after hitting an 800-meter run at a pretty decent effort. But that's not it. He had to do it after the morning in which he had to accumulate essentially 65 dumbbell bench press, those cleans, those deadlifts, and then on the day previous, they also had to do all of those ring complexes, which is what they're arguing Carone did not have to do. And remember, it's not just Carone, it's Corby as well, pulled out for a very similar issue. Carone's the one that I talked to on this matter. Carone's the 5-time CrossFit Games athlete. And Carone is also the one with a pec tear. Accumulated effect, the stimulus of the tests. The tests for the event. That event where Mr. Rich Froning's getting the boot. That event where the judges are forgetting to put weights on the bar. That event where now, because some freaking stupid idiot YouTube dude with an Instagram account can post a picture of a belt and now they're checking everybody's belts at the last minute. The event, which is apparently in the process of losing their title sponsor, or maybe the title sponsor just wants nothing to do with them, and you can see that rather obviously when you look at the floor plan. See, the Noble tent was supposed to be there right behind the CrossFit tent, and you have nowhere to be seen. Where is the title sponsor? They've never been at an event before. Well, why does it say that they're going to be there then? Make whatever excuse you want to, but sure as hell looks to me like they were supposed to be there. They're having an emergency meeting tomorrow morning, a media press conference. And why, oh why would they want to have a media press conference? Well, it seems like every single comment on the live stream is kind of talking about the things that might be going on with possibly them lacking a live stream. And there are people out there, namely the CrossFit podcast, which is being headed by Chase and Adrian, who are doing everything that they can. And there's people on there talking crap about that too, like, what is this, grade school? And that's short-sighted. You should be happy to have something, because CrossFit thought it would be cooler for them to create some supercut bull crap.
You got James Sprague, Dallin Pepper, Jeff Adler.
Which they're going to release a day later, where everyone has kind of forgotten about the fact that they had to pull the sleds on some stupid surface with some stupid rug.
In case of emergency, the exits are here.
Lead carpet yanking it across the room so that you can bring those stupid things to Africa. And they're having this stupid media press conference so that everybody can hear Mr. Justin Berg and his perfectly polished crap that nobody cares about because you're not telling us anything.
It didn't say anything.
Yes, I want to waste a half hour of my time at the time in which you have so graciously allowed us to ask one question. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think that I'm going on too big of a limb right here saying that I'm spearheading a lot of the issues here. I killed those people. And I'm not doing your stupid media conference. I don't care.
Yeah, I'd rather die.
I'm not gonna go to anything that you're having. If you want to talk to me, this is how you get to me. I know you guys all have a direct line to my cell phone. You have my phone number? Go ahead and use it. Want to talk to me about something? Ask. Tell me. Tell me before I'm allowed to talk to Alexander Carone in the modern age that is media, where I can just say, hey dude, can I talk to you about this? I have a huge conversation with him, and then he gives me a video so that all of you guys can see it. CrossFit should have had this covered, honestly, before he even went home that night, so that then if they wanted to, they had a press conference this morning, so that none of this stuff would have happened. But they are so screwed, because I'm not saying the F word no more. This video is too long. Thank you for joining me in the laundromat. It sucks for Alex Carone because he is what would have been maybe 6-time CrossFit Games athlete, but they ripped that away from him. We see Sydney Wells is in a qualifying position, right? What was she, just outside of the top 10, and they taken 11 out of the women's field? And that chick finished dead last on those ring complexes because it looks like she couldn't do one, but that's a scoring issue. Is it a scoring issue, or is it just idiocy on how they decided to score that event? You tell me. This is not something that I remember having had been an issue in the 2015, 16, 17, and 18 years. And if you think back to then, it was a simpler time where you didn't need to do stuff like extend your hips on a clean. And everyone knew what the hell was going on. And there were no press conferences. And I had no reason to exist, but I'm happy to be here. I've had a great time this weekend, and Riller out.
Face fresh light, but no one touched there now.